Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My family has always been complicated. My parents raised my sister Megan, 29 female, and me, 27 female, in a household where appearances mattered more than emotions. Everything had to look perfect, and success was the only acceptable outcome. Megan thrived in that environment. She's always been the one who plans her life down to the last detail. She's ambitious, fiercely competitive, and unyieldingly perfectionistic. To her, success isn't just a goal, it's an identity. Megan married James, 32 male, her college boyfriend, 3 years ago. James is charismatic and charming, with a career that complements Megan's high-powered image. Together, they've curated this vision of the ideal couple, hosting elaborate dinner parties and attending charity galas. My parents adore them and often hold them up as an example of how a perfect life should look. I, on the other hand, have always been different. I've pursued a quieter, more unconventional path, prioritizing my passions over societal expectations. This difference has often made me the odd one out in my family. Megan has always treated me like I'm reckless or irresponsible, and my parents, while loving in their own way, have tended to side with her. Our relationship has been polite but distant, with an undercurrent of judgment that I've learned to live with. I work as a marketing executive at a small but thriving tech company. My boss, Elliot, 45 male, is the CEO and founder. From the day I started, I admired him, not just for his sharp business acumen, but for the way he treats people. He's the kind of leader who remembers everyone's birthday, listens intently during meetings, and never hesitates to roll up his sleeves when work gets tough. Elliot is married to a woman who is just as successful as he is. They're a power couple on paper. But as I got to know him, I learned their marriage wasn't what it seemed. It started with small, casual conversations about work. He'd talk about his kids, his wife, and the business he built from scratch. Over time, he confided in me about the cracks in his marriage. He described it as a partnership rather than a relationship, devoid of affection and intimacy. At first, I thought nothing of these conversations, but as weeks turned into months, our connection deepened. We'd stay late in the office, not just working, but talking about life. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in a long time. It wasn't long before our relationship crossed professional boundaries. It started with a kiss, then spiraled into something neither of us planned, but both of us couldn't walk away from. I know how this sounds. Falling for a married man was never something I intended to do. I didn't set out to destroy a marriage or hurt anyone. But life isn't black and white, and our feelings for each other grew despite the circumstances. Elliot was clear from the beginning that he will never leave his wife. Their prenup would leave him with nothing, including the business he'd spent decades building. He also worried about the impact a divorce would have on his children. I accepted these limitations, not because I was naive, but because I cared about him, and I was deeply in love as he was. Our relationship wasn't easy. It was filled with stolen moments and whispered conversations, always under the shadow of secrecy. Despite the complications, I fell in love with him. He made me feel valued and understood in a way no one else had. I convinced myself that what we had was worth the sacrifice and risks. 3 months ago, I discovered I was pregnant. The moment those 2 lines appeared on the test, my world shifted. I was terrified, excited, and overwhelmed all at once. When I told Elliot, his reaction was a mix of panic and concern. We had a long emotional conversation about what this would mean for both of us. He offered to support me financially and emotionally, but made it clear that we couldn't let anyone know he was the father. Elliot's biggest fear was that his wife would find out. Their prenup had a clause that would strip him of his company if he was caught in an affair. To protect himself, he asked me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, legally binding me from revealing his identity as the father. It felt cold and transactional, but I understood why he needed it. Reluctantly, I signed it, because I wanted to keep the baby, as it was a result of my love. I decided to keep the pregnancy a secret from my family for as long as possible. But as my bump became harder to hide, I knew I had to tell them. I thought the hardest part would be dealing with their judgment. I had no idea how much worse it could get. When I finally told my family I was pregnant, their reactions were mixed. My parents were surprised and confused because I never told them I was seeing anyone. They asked who the father was, but when I told them I'm not ready to reveal it yet, they were supportive and didn't pressure further. Megan, however, was instantly suspicious. She pressed me about the identity of the father, making comments like, "You've always been secretive about your relationships. Are you ashamed of him?" I deflected, telling her it was someone I wasn't seeing anymore and didn't want to talk about. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, Megan showed up at my apartment, livid. She accused me of having an affair with her husband, James, and claimed he was the father of my baby. I was stunned. James and I have never had any relationship beyond polite small talk at family events. But Megan was convinced. She pointed to moments where James had been too friendly toward me and claimed my refusal to name the father was proof of my guilt. I denied it, but she didn't believe me. She stormed out, vowing to get the truth. Megan wasted no time dragging her parents into the situation. The next day, they called me in a frenzy. My mom was in tears, and my dad was furious. He demanded to know why I wouldn't name the father. When I refused, my dad said, "If you want us to believe you, take a DNA test when the baby is born." Megan chimed in, saying a DNA test would clear everything up. She painted herself as the victim of a betrayal, a wife whose husband and sister had conspired against her. My parents believed her. The more I refused to name the father, the guiltier I looked. My mom accused me of tearing the family apart, and my dad threatened to cut me off financially if I didn't comply. Megan continued to harass me, sending angry texts and showing up unannounced to demand answers. Part of me wants to take the test just to shut everyone up, but I can't. A DNA test would inevitably lead to questions I can't answer without violating the agreement. If I break the NDA, Elliot could lose everything: his marriage, his business, and his reputation. I care about him too much to let that happen. But my refusal only fuels Megan's accusations. She's obsessed with proving her theory, and my parents have taken her side. They've started treating me like an outcast, and every conversation ends in a fight. I feel like I've lost my family, and I don't know how to get them back. This situation has drained me emotionally and physically. My parents barely speak to me unless it's to demand a DNA test. Megan won't stop accusing me, and even my friends have started distancing themselves because I've been so secretive. My pregnancy, which I was supposed to enjoy, turned into a nightmare. I couldn't believe my self-confident sister is so insecure deep inside that she thinks her husband is having an affair with her sister. Looks like her marriage is not as perfect as it looks from the outside. Elliot has been supportive in his own way, but there's only so much he can do without drawing attention. He's terrified about what would happen if the truth came out. I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I don't know how much longer I can hold it all together. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take the DNA test? OP's sister sounds completely unhinged. She's so convinced her husband is the father, with no actual evidence other than her own paranoia? That's ridiculous. She's so convinced her husband is the father, with no actual evidence other than her own paranoia? That's ridiculous. The fact that OP's parents are taking her side without any proof is even worse. Yes, I guess they're all guessing who the father is, but OP said she's not ready to disclose it, and they should respect her wishes. OP's sister's insecurities and her parents' enabling behavior are not OP's responsibility to fix. I understand it's hard to be pressured like that, but then from the other side, OP put herself in this situation, starting a relationship with a married man. Everyone reaps what they sow, I guess. And now let's hear the community's opinion. You're the a-hole, but not for the reason your family thinks. You're not an a-hole for refusing the DNA test. That's your choice. But sleeping with a married man knowing he has a family and signing an NDA to cover it up? That's messy. You've put yourself in a situation where everyone loses, especially the innocent people involved, like Elliot's wife and kids. I get that feelings are complicated, but this whole situation is a disaster waiting to happen. The truth will come out eventually. It always does. OP, you're playing a dangerous game. Megan is relentless, and your parents are on her side. How long do you think you can keep the real story hidden? NDAs can only protect so much. What happens if Megan or your parents push harder after the baby is born? Elliot has a lot to lose, but so do you. I think you need to start planning for what happens if the truth comes out. This secret is already tearing your family apart, and it's only going to get harder to keep it under wraps. Your sister is projecting her insecurities onto you, and it's honestly wild that your parents are enabling her. The fact that she jumped straight to accusing you of sleeping with her husband without any solid evidence says more about her marriage than it does about you. As for your situation with Elliot, it's messy, but I get why you're trying to protect him. That said, you might need to consider whether keeping the secret is worth the toll it's taking on you and your relationships. Sometimes the truth, no matter how painful, is the only way forward. Update. After weeks of Megan accusing James of having an affair with me and fathering my child, he finally broke. Megan's paranoia and relentless accusations became too much for him to handle. Apparently, she's been interrogating him daily, going through his phone, tracking his movements, and even calling his coworkers to ask if they've seen him with me. James called me 2 nights ago to tell me he's filing for divorce. He said he can't live like this anymore. He swore he's never cheated on Megan and that he's done everything he could to prove his innocence, but she refuses to believe him. He also told me he resents me for not clearing his name, even though I've repeatedly denied any involvement with him. He believes that my refusal to take a DNA test is what pushed Megan over the edge. Now, Megan is beside herself. She called me sobbing, accusing me of ruining her life. She claims that I've destroyed her marriage and torn the family apart. My parents have doubled down, insisting that I take a DNA test to set things right. They've made it clear that they blame me entirely for what's happened. My dad even said, "You've ruined your sister's life over your selfishness." I'm at a loss. How am I the one responsible for this? Megan's inability to trust her husband and her refusal to listen to reason is what destroyed her marriage, not me. But none of them want to hear that. I'm completely isolated. I've lost my family's trust, and I feel like I've lost any chance of repairing my relationship with Megan or my parents unless I disclose the truth about my secret relationship. My friends are supportive, but also starting to get suspicious. The secret I'm keeping is suffocating, but I don't see any way out without destroying even more lives. So I keep quiet because I don't have any other options than that. I'm a 26 female, and my friend Amber, 27 female, is married to John, 31 male. They've always had a happy marriage, but here's the kicker in the story. I've always been in love with John. After he got together with Amber, I just learned to suppress my feelings and push back the hurt. I tried to be happy for them. Amber often shared deeply personal stuff about her life with me. So John had been working out of the country for months, which made Amber very resentful. One day, Amber dropped the bomb on me that she was 6 weeks pregnant. I was shocked. She confessed that she was seeing her married boss, 45 male. Her plan was to get an A, done before John returned. She swore me to secrecy and told me that she considered me her best friend and that I was the only person who knew. I had been cheated on in the past, and her sneaking around brought back some painful memories. She claimed that she wasn't really doing anything wrong because she loved John and was only having her physical needs met. A few weeks later, Amber requested me to book a hotel reservation for a nice 3-day getaway with her boss. Apparently, me doing their dirty work would help them fly under the radar. Her excuse to John was a work conference in another city. While she was gone, I met John at a housewarming party. He and I got to talking when he told me that he missed Amber a lot. He even joked about suffering from blue balls for 10 months. I couldn't hold it back any longer and spilled the beans. I confessed that I booked the hotel reservation and showed all the texts exchanged between us. I told him I was sorry. That night, Amber got back from her getaway. She noticed that John wasn't his usual cheerful self. That's what she told me. 2 weeks later, John served her papers and kicked her out. The entire thing went down 11 months ago, and their divorce is set to be finalized next month. Her boss is also getting divorced. John and I broke the news to his wife. The silver lining, for me, was that John asked me out a month ago. He had broken up with his girlfriend of 3 months and wanted to give us a try. We are dating now and taking things very slow. Recently, Amber found out about us and has been blowing up on Instagram, sharing posts about backstabbing bees and homewreckers. Last night, she sent me a long message accusing me of being a mate poacher and a snake. Before I could send a reply, she blocked me. Everyone sucks here. You, Amber, the boss. Everyone but John and the boss's wife. Amber has a lot of nerve, but then again, she's probably just copy-pasting what the boss's wife sent her. I wouldn't sweat it too much. Your relationship with Amber is over. Move on with John. Enjoy each other. You cared enough to let him know, but you had an ulterior motive. I guess it all worked out for you then. Whatever. They don't have kids. The divorce is final. Move on. She doesn't want to talk? Fine. Let this one go. She put herself in this sitch, and you're both better off without her. Everyone sucks here. Yes, the a-hole. If you had really been concerned with John and actually cared at all for your friend Amber, you would not have ran to John with this information or helped her facilitate the vacation with her boss. 1. I have always been in love with John. First of all, just don't. If your friend is ducking married to someone else, get over it, or get under someone else. I don't really care, but leave him alone. 2. Amber and John sound like they have a hella toxic relationship anyway. They haven't ducked in 10 months. He's casually telling you about their issues. She's off with getting teabagged by her boss, so yeah, it sounds crap. 3. To the point of Amber getting teabagged. You actively encouraged her to cheat, booking a hotel room for her and her boss to hang out at while you stayed behind and ratted her out to her husband, that you secretly love. Does John know that you booked the hotel for them? Honestly, the only person who seems okay here is John, who got ducked over by his cheating wife and her crappy friend. Not the a-hole. She broke her own marriage up by cheating on her husband. While your feelings for John does make things complicated, you did the right thing by telling him. I will always advocate for meddling to expose a cheater. Also, don't think it's bad that you're dating him. She doesn't own him. Me, 27 female, and my fiancé Josh, 28 male, have been together for 5 years. We have twins, 1.5 male and female. Josh's family and I don't have a close relationship for some reasons. There are homophobic and xenophobic comments make them people I don't keep close contact with. Josh is a ball out of turn. All of his family trips, it's always pretty clear that they didn't invite me and Josh. Always says it's their family thing, so they feel uncomfortable with me. To be quite honest, I felt free from that, so I never went in the past. But in the arrival of the twins and a pandemic, the trips didn't happen. About 3 months ago, Josh said there would be a family trip to a city in another state, 3 hours by plane. I was really excited, as it would be the twins' first trip. He said he would organize everything. 3 weeks ago, travel would be in 12 days. I started packing the twins' clothes and looking for clothes for myself. Josh saw me putting my clothes on and asked what I was doing. When I said I was packing my clothes for the trip, he said, "Baby, it's my family trip. You know it's an intimate thing like my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. I just bought it for me and the twins." Keep in mind that none of his brothers have children, only girlfriends or fiancés. I said that and asked if he planned to take our children and not me, and when he said yes, I just laughed and called him deluded, because I wouldn't let them go to another state without me, and I wouldn't sign the authorization either. He asked me to sign. Babies need authorization from both parents. And after much humiliation, I decided to go on a mini vacation in a country house 1 hour away by car. Josh and I didn't talk these days. He arrived yesterday and the house was empty. He called me asking where I was, and I said I took a vacation. He had the nerve to ask if he could join, but I was sincere in saying that I wanted space. He knows where I am, and spend time alone with kids. He started to say how hypocritical I was to go on a trip with them and he couldn't, that I was being mean and vindictive. It's escalated to the point that even his family is calling me a hypocrite and cruel for not allowing a moment between them. I just wanted to have peace with my twins after going through such a humiliating thing, and I'm thinking about leaving early. I would go on Sunday. Am I the a-hole? By the way, my twins are still breastfed, and he points out several times that I made the mistake of thinking that I was going on the trip. He never said I would. That's a fact, but I thought at the time it wouldn't happen. Extra. Well, in case you have any doubts, the biggest reason I didn't let the twins go is the fact being another state thousands of kilometers away from where I live. The city I'm in is a district of mine, 1 hour by car, even less. He wanted to go somewhere that's 3 hours by plane and more than 1 day by car. If something happened, I wouldn't be able to get there fast. If it was close to where they would go, it would be something else. Your fiancé needs to grow a backbone and stand up to his family to include you, the mother of his children, in family activities. It is a huge red flag that he has not done so to date. You describe him as your fiancé. Is there a set wedding date? I would think you would want this resolved before you get married. I recommend pre-marriage family counseling, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The problem here is when you marry someone, you basically marry their family. You married a pack of a-holes. If your marriage is going to survive, Josh needs to realize he is no longer mommy's little boy. He is an adult, married with 2 children. Not the a-hole. What exactly was his plan for feeding the babies without you when they were breastfed? He was going to have some very fussy babies with him if you weren't there. He clearly wasn't caring at all about his own kids' well-being, and only of himself. You have a selfish a-hole of a fiancé who doesn't care about you or his kids. 4 years ago, my sister hired my fiancée, Jen, 28 female, to be a babysitter for my 2 nephews. We met a couple times when I, 27 male, came over. Then when we all went on a family cruise, my sister invited her to come. They paid for her room and everything. So their deal was Jen would tag along with us during the day to help with my nephews. Then in the evening, she was free to do whatever. A couple nights we hung out in one of the bars, or went to see a show, just the 2 of us, because my family would also do their own thing. We spent the night together once during the cruise, and that resulted in us becoming parents. Obviously, my sister wasn't happy because once Jen was later into her pregnancy, she had to stop working. I helped to take care of her and our son until she finished her last semester of college to get her master's. My sister blames me for having to find a new sitter because she expected Jen to work for them at least until oldest was 12, but that would be another 2 years from now. Jen even told her she was never going to stay with them that long. Her getting pregnant just meant she had to stop working for them a year earlier than originally planned. You'd think after 3 years they wouldn't still be bitter about it, but they are. Sometimes they even ask her to help with the kids, but obviously she says no because we have work and a super energetic 3-year-old to run after. I proposed to Jen earlier this month. She said yes, and when we had everybody over to announce us getting married, first thing they both said is they hope we don't expect a gift from them because we still owe them for that cruise. Not even a congrats or anything. And what they said is BS because Jen did the job she was supposed to during the day on the cruise, and she had the freedom to do whatever she wanted after hours. Me and my mom told her to stop it already. Later, when we were all talking about the wedding, we mentioned it not being child-free, as in kids will be there. My brother-in-law asked if they could bring a sitter to watch the kids there, and my sister right away says, "But don't duck this one," in front of my 3-year-old and our whole family. Jen looked really uncomfortable. She took my son to the living room so I could tell my sister to shut up about something that happened years ago already. If she still wants to be hung up on it like a ducking brat, giving attitude and not show more respect for my fiancé, then get the hell out of my house. She looked really red and like she wanted to say more, but they got up to leave. Ever since, she won't stop claiming I'm a jackass because she's allowed to be pissed all she wants. It didn't give me a right to throw her out like trash, according to her. I'm trying not to let it get to me, but also just curious if I was one here. Not the a-hole. Does your sister think your fiancé is an indentured servant? That is exactly how she sounds. Not the a-hole. Your sister is acting like your fiancé is or was a commodity or a possession instead of a person, and she's pissed she lost the use of your fiancé. It's time to tell your sister that one more comment like this and full no contact. She's being a huge a-hole and acting in a frankly dehumanizing way toward your fiancé, and it should not be tolerated at all. Not the a-hole. Don't invite them to the wedding. Your sister and brother-in-law have had plenty of time and warnings to knock it off. They choose to keep being trashy and disrespectful. The fact she had the nerve to say that in front of your child and fiancé, oh, and your shared mother, shows she will never respect you and your family. Keep the trash out where it belongs. You were never the a-hole here. They see your fiancé as less than a person for having the audacity to have a relationship outside of her work and do things on her own time. Seriously, keep the trash out of your family, because that is all sister and brother-in-law are. Trash. Note: I'm gay, and my ex and I dated when we were in high school. He said it was a mistake because he realized he just had a raging hormone and great thirst for adventure, hence why he dated me. It put a strain on our friendship until we graduated in college and had a time to be friends again. I'm not in love with him anymore, and I only see him as a bro. So my ex and his fiancé will get married next month. They personally visited me 2 days ago to invite me to celebrate with them. Although she's present, the fiancé really looks uncomfortable around me, even if I try to be friendly with her. We used to be really close friends until some stupid former friend spilled that I am an ex. Since then, she has been displaying signs of insecurities. Of course, I put boundaries between me and my friend, like I refuse to do the bro hug anymore, or I don't text him anymore unless it is important. Yet somehow, I cannot ease the discomfort of his fiancé, and it is making me really sad. Anyway, the wedding will take place on my ex's family's private beach hotel. They are filthy rich. Then we will stay there for the entire week. To be honest, I love the place, so when I got invited, I know there is no way I'll skip it since it's a free vacation. Besides, I've been working out a lot recently, and I want to flaunt my now sculpted body. However, I feel like I will ruin the bride's mood if I went there. Even if she personally invited me, I feel like she really didn't want me to be there. So would I be the a-hole if I come? The bit at the end is what makes me yes the a-hole. You don't really care if you make her uncomfortable or ruin her day or not. You just want a free vacay and to show off your beach body. Everyone sucks here. You suck for thinking of it as a free vacation rather than a friend's wedding. Your ex's fiancé sucks for inviting you despite her feeling uncomfortable around you, although she may have been pushed to invite you by your ex. If you do go to this wedding, as is your right since you were invited, then you have to treat it as your friend's wedding rather than a free vacation to minimize the a-holishness. Yes, the a-hole, for completely overblowing this whole situation. You were invited. Trust me, the bride would not have invited you if her wedding would be ruined by your presence. I think you have blown up the picture of what your fling with her fiancé matters to her. It seems like it matters little. To be honest, you seem a bit conceited with talking about wanting to flaunt your body and go on a free vacation with rich people. So if the reason why you want to go is to flaunt yourself to her and take advantage of these people, then you would be the a-hole. Years ago, my ex-husband and I adopted a cat. I absolutely adored her, and we were best friends. She slept in our bed every night until she died. My ex is a gifted painter and can support himself with his art. After the death of beloved cat, he painted her in her favorite spot and gifted it to me. It now hangs in my lounge room. Obviously, my ex and I are divorced now. I have since moved on and am in a relationship with my partner. He quickly stated that he wasn't comfortable with me having paintings that my ex made. I agreed to take them down, but told him the cat painting stays where it is. He reluctantly agreed. All was well until yesterday when my partner accidentally broke the frame. My ex used to write loving messages on the back of all the paintings he gifted me, and the cat was no exception. I never really thought about it anymore because I don't see it. But, well, my partner saw and cracked the poops. He demanded that I get rid of it, as it's disrespectful to him. He said I might as well hang up a photo of my ex in the lounge room. I really want to keep the painting. It brings me so much joy to see my darling every day. I don't have a photo of her in her favorite spot, and the painting really captures her beautiful soul. My partner says I'm an a-hole because I value a gift from my ex more than his comfort. Not the a-hole. Your partner is being straight up unreasonable. It's a picture of a cat. Moreover, it's a picture of a departed cat that you loved very much. Partner needs to get over himself. I'd really like to know how you accidentally break the frame of a portrait you have previously complained about. He is definitely the a-hole. If he can't handle that you loved your cat and love the painting of a cat, but don't love the painter anymore, that's his problem, not yours. Not the a-hole. You loved your pet and love her picture. People have past relationships, marriages. It's a fact of life.